Good evening, and thanks for clicking on to this special live stream this evening. It is Sunday. What date is it? The 25th of August. Very good afternoon and good evening, and I'm live here from just outside NEWRY in Northern Ireland. Hope everybody is well and enjoying what is left of the weekend. Obviously, we are rapidly approaching the new working week once again. We'll talk about what kind of weather conditions we may expect as we move through the upcoming week as well. But I want to say a massive thank you to everybody for tuning in this evening. Certainly was a miserable day as my dad and I travelled. I initially started off 3:30 this morning, leaving from home base up in Eventon, Rossshire. Drove the 3.5 hours down the A9, met up with my dad, had a bit of toast and a cup of coffee, recharged slightly, and then we journeyed down to Cairnryan, crossed over the North Channel, and we happened to meet this wonderful woman here. She just happened to turn 91 back on the 16th of August. A very happy birthday to you, Gran, who happens to just be in the room next door. But we had a lovely meal at the halfway house just near Banbridge. I don't know if anybody knows where I'm talking about. I know there is a few folks tuning in from Northern Ireland. And we had a lovely meal. And so 91 years of age. What a wonderful woman she really is. It's incredible that she's reached another benchmark. But happy birthday to you, Gran, and albeit it's better late than never, I suppose, since your birthday was back on the 16th of August. So let me know in the comment section below how everybody is doing. I do believe that Mark Kinnish is tuning in this evening. For some reason, I'm not actually managing to get the live chat, so I'm actually going to come back out of this and try and load up once again. So we've got 9 concurrent viewers at the moment. Do me a favour, hit that like button, let myself and YouTube know that you are enjoying the content here on the channel. I have been awake since 11 a.m. yesterday, so I'm feeling a little bit on the tired side, I must admit, so do forgive me if I muddle up my lines, etc, etc. You know me by now, it wouldn't be a Mark Vogan Weather live stream if I didn't muck something up, whether it be a pronunciation or whatever. But we've got Mark Kinnish. Mark says, hi Mark, hope you got there okay, and hi to your folks. Wayne Bingham is also tuning in, hi Mark. Jack Lowe, hi Mark, hope you're okay, having a great time in Northern Ireland. Jim Bob is also tuning in, a good evening to you, Jim. Richard Trott is tuning in, hi Mark, and happy 91st to the excellent lady. Thank you very much, Richard. I'm sure she would greatly appreciate your kind words, my friend. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. And Mark says, glad you got there okay, Mark. Yeah, certainly has been a long day, I have to be honest with you. Went to bed last night around 10 p.m. Tried to sleep, but lo and behold, it's like flick a switch, ping, wide awake. And it essentially has been a rather long period of time since I've managed to get some sleep. So hopefully tonight will be a better one, because I'm going to be making the journey all the way back up the road tomorrow. So busy times at Mark Vogan Weather HQ, but nonetheless, I'm still delivering the content here on the channel. So if you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button. It would be much appreciated. I really do greatly appreciate everybody's kind support, continuing to strive to deliver unique, unbiased, unhyped content here on the channel. And we have got very interesting times to come, because we've now got the birth of the northern hemispheric polar vortex. I believe the winds, if they haven't already done so, are on this cusp of reversion from easterly back to westerly, the birth of the polar vortex. And also down in the southern hemisphere, we've also got at what looks like another stratospheric warming. Now, looking into a little bit of research, it looks as if there is some hints that we may have a connection between what goes on within the southern stratospheric polar vortex versus what happens in the northern hemisphere. So that is going to be an interesting thing to watch as we go into the next few months. And we're going to be looking at the teleconnections, looking at all the aspects that go into a winter forecast. So I'm going to be ramping things up during the month of September. Isn't it hard to believe that we're just about to exit meteorological summer? It seems as if it's just kind of went in a flash this year. I do know that many people have said that they've only had the chance to sit out once or twice. I had my sister-in-law actually visiting yesterday afternoon. She was saying we've only had like one barbecue, or we've only been sitting outside one or two times during the course of the summer season. Obviously a little bit different the further south and southeast you've went over the UK. We've had these heat spikes, but the further north you go, the lack of heat and the lack of essentially sunshine has been the case. We've got John Bevan here tuning in. Like I say, Richard Trott. We've got my mum, Joyce Vogan, tuning in as well from Continental. Hi, Mark. Love to you all. Hi to my lovely mother-in-law. Hope all goes well. Mum, thank you very much for your kind comments, Mum, and I hope you're enjoying your evening. We've got Peter Logan as well. Good afternoon. And I keep saying good afternoon. I'm not used to having a 4 p.m. live stream instead of 7:30. By the way, next weekend it looks as if it's going to be the same time, around 7:30, just to let you know. But there will be a reminder as we progress through the course of the upcoming work week. So Jack Lowe says PV is back. Love it. We've got Solar Phoenix also tuning in. Good evening to you, Solar Phoenix. Hope you are well. And have I got anybody else? So let me just see here if I've missed anybody out. We've got John Bevan saying, hi Mark, I am not usually able to watch you live. Enjoy the program. Love the content. Keep trucking. Certainly doing my best, John, and it's wonderful that you've been able to tune in this evening to the live stream. So yeah, certainly was a miserable best part of the day. Driving south, not too bad. Then once we got into the central belt, the rain started. Heading further south, it was just wind and rain and felt more like autumn as opposed to the end of August. It really has been pretty crazy stuff here. Richard Trott says, well done on keeping awake. I'm up as usual at 5 a.m. tomorrow, bank holiday or not, laugh out loud. The joys of retail, Richard, I must admit. I spent a good few years working in retail, and essentially the bank holidays just simply don't exist, my friend. So I feel your pain when it comes to not getting the benefit of the bank holidays. And obviously up in Scotland, actually, it's not a bank holiday, but I work for an English company. So therefore, I'm getting the benefit of the bank holiday this weekend, which is pretty nice. And it's given myself and my dad a chance to come over and visit the good lady as well. So we've also got the Dumpster 1961. Hi, Mark. First bit of rain in 5 weeks yesterday here in East Suffolk, 10 millimetres. Well, you certainly enjoy that, Dumpster 1961, because it has been rather dry down in the southeast corner. I do know that there was a swathe of fairly heavy precipitation that moved through during the course of yesterday. I don't know an awful lot about the details of that, but I'm sure there's been places that have seen a good soaking, other places that miss out. That is quite often the case. And it looks as if we are going to warm things up as we move towards the work week coming up. Looks as if the modelling, by the way, has slightly backed off in some of the extremity of warmth. Back a couple of days ago, the GFS was indicating 32 Celsius in London, even suggested 23 Celsius up in Inverness, and kind of in between for the Manchester area. But you can see here the latest run of the GFS of this particular website. You can see that it's really only indicating 18.7, then a drop during the course of Thursday, Friday. Then it's only showing 20.1, another drop off, then another peak of only 20.7. So yeah, not a particularly warm look, I must admit. Even for London, we have got a peak in terms of temperature back as we move towards the end of next week. This is actually next weekend, by the way, 29.9 Celsius. It'll be interesting to see the kind of back and forth in the models with regards to this surge of warmth. Now, the reason for that is likely, at least in part, due to the fact that the MJO is rotating in the phases 4 and 5, which tends to promote warmer conditions in the eastern United States and the west of Europe. We're going to see that the MJO rotate through the Indian Ocean into the maritime continent, and eventually it should start to progress towards the Atlantic basin. By the way, check out the Tropical Outlook yesterday, looking at the reasons behind why the tropics have been so quiet in the last wee while or so. A combination of the ITCZ being further north than normal, then those waves moving off Africa entering cooler than conducive waters, so temperatures below 27 Celsius. Generally, you've got the 27C isotherm to the south of Cape Verde, so therefore those waves moving off the African coast is tapping that warm fuel of the main development region of the Atlantic. But further north, dust and colder than average. I say colder than average, colder than conducive waters for formation intensification of the tropics and tropical systems. We've also got Ben Ente tuning in. I don't know if I did actually say hello to you, Ben, already. If I have, I do apologise, my friend, but I hope you're well. I think just lurking, I'm in the car park, get sick, so can't watch. Certainly hope you're feeling better, Ben. Mark Kinnish is saying, Mark, don't want a warm September, want CET to stay in the 14s for hoping for a colder winter. Let's hope so. Interesting, some analogues, by the way, coming out with regards to the La Nina. And, typically La Nina historically promotes kind of colder during the first half of the winter, milder during the second half. And we've got El Nino tends to have the opposite. Milder first half, colder second half. Some of these analogues actually for the developing La Nina has showed the opposite. Increased block, increased potential of cold during the second half of the winter. So there is obviously competing factors to take into consideration. You can't look at one particular teleconnection, whether it be La Nina, the West QBO, the solar maximum that we've got going at the moment as well here. All these things are going to get taken into consideration going forward. But remember, I made mention of the fact that the Antarctic oscillation, it went into a strat warming back a month or so ago here. We've seen record-breaking warm conditions over Antarctica. We've seen frontal systems moving out of the polar region up through South America. When my wife and I were visiting Rio de Janeiro, we did have a frontal system move through, eradicating temperatures of 35, 36 Celsius, heavy rainfall followed by temperatures only 20 Celsius, for example. So a big drop in temperature due to these frontal systems moving north. And I think that's a direct consequence of the strat warming taking place. Looks as if we're seeing another strat warming developing here. If we look at the initial at 10 millibars over the Antarctic Peninsula, you can see, let's blow this up just a little touch to see if I can make it a little bit easier for you to see. So before I continue with the video, hit that like button, folks. I would greatly appreciate that. It lets myself and YouTube know that you're enjoying the content, and all the hard work that's been put in is getting, not appreciated, but you know what I mean. There's a lot of work. I work full time as a lorry driver as well as doing weather forecasting. You hitting that subscribe button, hitting the like button, lets me know that you are appreciating and enjoying the hard work that is going on behind the scenes. So this is the Antarctic Peninsula. A little bit hard to see. I do appreciate that. Polar vortex at 10 millibars, rather chilly and strong at this point in time. You can see here a slight warming take place on the south shore of Antarctica. Now, if we skip out a week from now at 10 millibars in the southern hemisphere, look at the strong warming now starting to show up. So these models are indicating another strat warming over the South Pole, and this could be something rather interesting as we move towards the northern hemisphere winter. That connection, remember, strat warmings over the South Pole is rare, doesn't happen as much as what we see up in the northern hemisphere. And remember back to last winter that we actually seen multiple weakenings of the polar vortex. And I think what happened is we've seen favourable MJO, and we've seen the weakening of the polar vortex. We had a cold December, we had a cold first half of January. Then I think the El Nino really kicked in, and we've seen the El Nino overtake the pattern in terms of globally. What's going to be interesting to see is, as we see the La Nina develop as we progress through the upcoming autumn season, what's going on within the southern hemisphere with regards to the strat warmings. This is going to be the second significant strat warming of their winter season. We're obviously in the last legs of winter down in the southern hemisphere. What influence does this have? Is this a harbinger of things to come later down the road? We've got a solar max and a west QBO. That can sometimes lead to a greater chance of weakening the polar vortex and seeing stratospheric warmings as well. So it really is going to be all to play for as we move into the month of September, October, November, and beyond that. We've got 23 concurrent viewers at the moment. A massive thank you to everybody for tuning in. We've also got Frog Legs Matthew. Very good afternoon or evening, should I say, to you. Feels like autumn already, laugh out loud. Certainly that wind this evening there felt distinctly chilly, and also made worse by the wind-driven rain as well. Richard Shaw also says some places further north have had a wet month. 259.8 millimeters of rain fallen in Eskdale in the southern uplands. So it certainly has been an interesting August for sure, I must admit. We've also got Neil Cutler. Very good evening to you, Neil. Hope you're enjoying your Sunday evening, my friend. Richard also says, if that South Pole warming comes off, that would be similar to our late February into March style of blocking as they are in late winter. Yes, it certainly will be interesting, Richard, to see what this may correlate to as we move through the upcoming autumn season. We're going to be watching this, I think, rather carefully. Jack Lowe says, why aren't we sensible and take umbrellas with us? Laugh out loud. Well, yeah, it certainly would. Not that I've got a lot of hair on my head, but it would keep my head dry at the very least using an umbrella. But I'll tell you what, by the way, with that wind, the brollies would probably get blown away, because it was rather gusty out there this evening and this afternoon. So anyway, that is the southern hemisphere with the potential next wave of stratospheric warming. How about the northern hemisphere? It certainly looks as if the polar vortex is now beginning to develop over the northern hemisphere, and we will be watching this accelerate, intensify as days grow colder and longer, and we're losing more and more in the way of incoming solar radiation. That polar vortex, with time, is going to strengthen. Does the West QBO, enhance that polar vortex as we move into the winter season, or do we see other aspects that may try and kick it off its pedestal? That polar vortex maybe getting displaced, weakening during the season. It's going to be interesting to see how strong the PV is as we move towards the winter season here. So if we look at the next week or so at 10 millibars over the northern hemisphere, you can see that we have got a very, very faint green showing up over to the north of the UK here. That is essentially starting to show the cool anomaly showing up. So we're starting to cool the 10 millibar level over this region of the Arctic, which means that we are seeing the atmosphere begin to cool, and that is obviously the PV really starting to ramp up. So let's have a look and see what we're looking at here. What's the QVO says Solar Phoenix? Are you meaning the QBO? I wonder. QBO is the quasi-biennial oscillation, which is the mean zonal winds within the stratosphere over the equatorial belt. When they're blowing westerly, they tend to have a potential strengthening influence on the jet stream and the polar vortex over the northern hemisphere. When they're blowing easterly, like we seen last year they can lead to frictional effects on the jet stream, the polar jet, and the polar vortex within the northern hemisphere here. So the QBO is firmly westerly. It's going to be westerly during the upcoming winter season. And not all west QBOs mean that we're not going to see cold spells. And not all east QBOs suggest that we're going to see cold spells either. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Probably doesn't. But I am feeling a little bit on the burnt out side, I must admit. So let's have a look and see what the global temperature anomalies are looking like here for the last 7 days. So let's go back during the course of the past week. This is North America. Rather chilly, very, very chilly, in fact, over the eastern side of North America. We've got down the spine of the Rockies, the high plains, we've got some warmth to speak about, and then we've also got a cool area extending from southern British Columbia right the way down to southern California here. Let's have a look and see what Australia is looking like for the last 7 days. We have seen record-breaking winter warmth, 38.5 Celsius, hottest winter day on record for the central areas of northern Australia, or South Australia, in fact, I think it was here. So this is Australia over the past 7 days. Let's have a look and see what Africa is looking like over the last 7 days. And you notice here that we've got this cool anomaly extending from the Ethiopian highlands across the southern flank of the Sahara Desert, the Sahel region. Notice here that we've got a little bit of cooling taking place up towards southern Morocco. Now that cooling over southern Morocco is indicative of that more northerly ITCZ, and the water temperatures off this coast are below 27 Celsius. So any waves moving off the African coast, as I've already said, is falling apart due to the cool waters, but also due to dusty, dry air. The Saharan dust season is still going, despite the fact that it normally would have ended by now here. But there's different competing factors going on at the moment. I think we are going to see the tropics liven up going forward. And then you can see here a cool anomaly to the south of the equator over interior southern Africa, and then warmth down across the far south of the continent here. Looking at Europe, over the last 7 days, UK and Ireland is running below average, which means the mean temperature anomaly for the month of August is starting to cool more and more, which means that it looks as if it's going to really kind of lock in place that the June through August period is going to be below average. And I believe, if I'm right in saying, this will be the first below average summer, meteorologically speaking, since 2015. It's also interesting to note that Storm Lillian that passed over the UK and Ireland over the last few days was a named storm, and it means that 2023 into 2024 has seen the most named storms since 2015 when naming began. So I thought that's quite interesting here, the correlation between storminess over the last 12 months, as well as the fact that we're seeing the coolest summer, probably the first below average June, July, and August combined since 2015 as well, which is quite interesting, really. So this is the last 7 days, like I say, over the European continent. Looking at the southern hemisphere over the last 7 days, and you've got there are some cool anomalies in the outer edges of Antarctica here, but generally speaking, we've had quite a warm August overall. I think this is going to end up being the warmest August on record for Antarctica, and that is a direct response to that stratospheric warming that took place about a month ago. Look at Argentina. You can see far southern South America actually running firmly below average over the last 7 days or so here, which is quite interesting. Let's have a look and see what the month to date is looking like for August globally, and you can see that we are looking like this. So obviously plenty of areas of warm, including Australia, much of South America, the western and northern portions of North America. We have got a large swathe of central Russia, Central Asia running above average here, with an area of colder than average across eastern Russia, parts of southwestern Russia, into western Kazakhstan, for example, northern India, Pakistan, running below average due to the rainfall here. We've seen the monsoon, by the way, kind of die off in the last few weeks here. Unfavorable MJO, etc., playing a role. But we are likely to start to see that increase as winds increase over the Arabian Sea, southwesterly winds. We're going to start to increase the moisture over the Indian subcontinent as we progress through the next few weeks here. Look at the lower 48, quite a cool east versus warmer west of the United States here. Like I say, most of South America is running warmer than average with the exceptions of Argentina. Australia, warmer than average, no surprise here. Eastern China, warmer than average. We've seen record-breaking temperatures fall across many areas of China in recent times. Let's have a look at Europe here, and you can see the anomaly of warmth really getting chipped away here. We've only got a small area of warmer than average along the south coast and up the eastern side of England. Cooler than average across the northwest of Scotland here. But you notice, generally speaking, it's probably quite close to average now, based on the cool anomaly in the northwest, warm anomaly in the southeast. When you average the UK out as a whole, it's actually probably quite close to average, which is amazing considering June was below average and July was below average. How many outlets out there suggested that we were going to see that taking place? I don't think there was many. I had a warmer than average summer based on SSTs. I did think there would be troughiness and low pressure to the northwest, heat and drought continuing across the southeast. That was a pretty good overall synoptic idea, but the weather, meteorology, always has a way of telling you, do you know what? You don't know it all, and I'm going to throw curveballs, and that's exactly what Mother Nature has done during the course of this summer season. Let's have a look at the southern hemisphere with regards to that warm anomaly. So this is August as a whole over Antarctica. And I wouldn't be surprised as we move into the spring season, given the fact that we're seeing the SSW, that we continue to see this warm anomaly. By the way, this is skewing the global average. So we've been seeing record warm, global temperatures. A lot of that is due to this warm anomaly that's focused over Antarctica. I know there's many areas that are seeing record-breaking warmth, but that warmth running over the Antarctic Peninsula is definitely having a significant influence on the overall temperature average. Let's have a look and see what the precipitation is looking like off the CFSV2 for the next 7 days here. Let's blow this chart up just to make it a little bit easier for you to see. And you can see here that we've got some wet conditions. No surprise here through Indonesia. We've got some areas of wetness just off the Malay Peninsula, Southeast Asia, essentially up through the southern and central Andaman Islands here of the East Indian Ocean. There's quite a large area of quite anomalous wetness. Notice here northern India, wetter than average, but down towards the Deccan Plateau and into the northern portions of the Indian Ocean, we've got a pretty dry anomaly. There's that belt over the equatorial Africa, the intertropical convergence zone here, showing wetter than average conditions. Most of Europe is actually quite dry, with the exceptions of Scandinavia and northern UK. Notice here this ribbon of precipitation running from the western subtropical Atlantic up to the north of the Azores and into the northern UK here. Drier than average conditions across the south as the trough starts to shift west over the British Isles to the west of the British Isles, allowing more in the way of southerly winds to develop. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies for the same 7-day period. And given the fact that we've got that precip running from the western subtropical Atlantic up into the northern UK, we've got cooler than average conditions across the northern UK, slightly warmer than average across the south. And really, that's is kind of reflective of August. This is kind of almost a summary of what August has produced. Deep Icelandic low, strong ridge over Iberia. Look at the eastern United States. Remember what we've seen over the last 7 days? What a turnaround coming to the eastern United States. And that, folks, is a phase 4 5 MJO written all over it. The big flip from colder than average to warmer than average over eastern North America. And, you know, it's interesting how we're seeing this reluctance of warmth trying to lift out of Spain and Portugal right the way up over the UK and Ireland. It looks as if that trough is essentially shutting the door. And that's been the case all summer. The trough to the northwest shutting the heat off from Scotland, Northern Ireland, and the northern half of England here. It's really just the southeast corner that has benefited. Look at Eurasia. Very warm upcoming 7-day period. But look at India and look at Pakistan running below average. Australia. Wow, what an end to winter, beginning of spring down under. Some record-breaking warm conditions here, and this could be concerning as we move towards the upcoming summer season here. China running very warm compared to average. Big contrast between Mongolia, very warm, record-breaking warm potentially, and Kazakhstan, which is actually running slightly below average. There's that cooling average where you've got the cloud and the thunderstorm activity and the rainfall over the Sahel. Hotter than average. It's been a very brutal summer, I must admit. Morocco, interior Morocco, Algeria, right the way across the Sahara Desert. It has been mid to upper 40s day in and day out. We've got some cool versus warmer than average across Antarctica, as you can see here. Let's have a look and see what our good friend Thierry Goose is tweeting out over the last few days. Record-breaking, not just days, but record-breaking warm nights as well. I must say, let's not forget that. But another historic day. This is Cameron H. based down in Australia, saying that Fitzroy Crossing, 40.6 Celsius, third hottest winter day on record in the whole of Australia. Only 0.6 Celsius below the national record here, and the third earliest 40 Celsius behind only 22nd and 23rd of August 2020. And Birdsville, 38.4, second hottest winter day on record for Queensland, and only 0.1 Celsius below the Queensland record based on what I can see here. Warmest winter night on record for South Australia, second warmest night for New South Wales. Temperatures staying as warm as 23.8 Celsius for a minimum here. And this graphic here nicely shows some of those records here shared by our friend Cameron H down in Australia. So some brutal heat wave conditions here. So it just shows you that strat warming going on within the Antarctic region. Obviously the effects of that may be kind of waning somewhat, so it may not be necessarily completely connected to the heat wave across Australia, but nonetheless we've seen cooling effects over southern portions of South America, but possibly quite the opposite over Australia, which is fascinating stuff, I must say. Let's continue to flick through and see if there's any other interesting tweets and information here. Yesterday, Seattle Tacoma Airport, big cold trough dropping down the western side of the North American continent. Seattle Tacoma Airport recorded the fifth lowest August maximum since records began back in 1945. So the fifth coldest August day since 1945 was achieved. Only 15 Celsius or 59 Fahrenheit, lowest August max since 1980. So a rather chilly day at SeaTac Airport on the outskirts of Seattle, Washington. So yeah, and I do believe that we had the coldest August day on the opposite side of the continent in Montreal in 30 years. In the last week or so here. Let's have a flick through and see what else. There we go here. Lowest August maximum in 30 years for Montreal, Quebec, with a maximum of 15.3. This is the lowest August max for Montreal since 1994, when the temperature was only 14.5. This is the 13th lowest since records began, 1942, and the fourth lowest so early in the month. So pretty impressive stuff. Let's skip over to volcanic. What time are we on? We are on 8:05. Just keeping a tab on the time. We've got 30 concurrent viewers at the moment. If you haven't already done so, do me a favor and hit that like button. That would be much appreciated here. Well, there will, of course, be the European outlooks back as per usual tomorrow. Despite the fact that I'm traveling, I will try and get a European outlook published, possibly while traveling across the North Channel. Some very large hail in parts of Spain due to thunderstorms and severe weather here. Very, very large stones falling out of the sky in parts of Spain. That would certainly hurt if it hits your head. That's one thing for sure. This is the flooding in parts of Ankara in Turkey. So again, some very nasty thunderstorms to speak about here. Let's skip through. Again, the large hail. It looks like baseball-sized hail to me. Fallen in parts of Spain. So let me see what else I can see here. This was Conakry in Guinea, West Africa. Flooding situation going on here. And this is likely due to the passage of an African wave riding the African easterly jet. So let me see what else has happened. Did you happen to see the new volcanic eruption that went off in southwest Iceland? I believe the winds blowing from a northwesterly direction was actually creating sulfur fumes in the air over the Western Isles and the northern half of the British Isles here. Let me know in the comment section actually whether you happen to notice that. Also, Lisa, who often moderates, Lisa Pattenden, she had also made mention of that she noticed the smoky skies due to the fires in Canada and the strong jet stream transporting some of that wildfire smoke across the Atlantic. I must admit, she only lives about 15, 20 minutes away from me, but I didn't happen to notice the wildfire smoke in the sky, but she had pointed it out to me. Kind of wish I'd managed to see that actually. So let me see here if there's anything else of interest. We do have typhoons to speak about in the western portion of the Pacific. Let's see the update here. So there we have Shanshan, I think is how you pronounce this. Looks as if it's going to move into the far south of Japan as a fairly significant system. We've got two other hurricanes over the eastern portion of the Pacific Basin. So Hurricane Hone and Hurricane Gilma. Gilma's been spinning away for a good wee while now actually, and then we've got another Invest 92E to the east of Gilma here, but the Atlantic is still quiet. But eventually we will start to see things changing, I think, as the MJO continues to rotate eastwards here. We obviously have record sea surface temperatures. We've got also record ocean heat content, which is the depth of that warm 27 plus Celsius right the way down, say, 100, 175 meters below the surface. You've got that ample fuel that all it takes is one of these systems to develop across the Atlantic, move over that very, very high octane water, and bang, you could go from a Cat 1 to a Cat 4, even Cat 5 in the space of a day or two here. That is the big concern going forward. Going back to the AAO or the Antarctic Oscillation here, look at the response in the atmosphere here over the southern hemisphere with that strat warming previous. Be interesting to see how low the Arctic Oscillation actually responds with this next potential strat warming. So we'll need to keep an eye on that going forward. And like I said before, let's watch and see the connection possibly between the southern hemisphere and the northern hemisphere. Arctic Oscillation, by the way, I've not shown this in a wee while. Here's how it's looking. Very positive look to the Arctic Oscillation pretty much throughout the course of this summer, with the exceptions of the first half of June, but it's been predominantly positive. Looks as if it's going to go towards neutral as we move into the first few days of September. The NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, also been firmly positive throughout the majority of the summer season here. looks as if it's going generally neutral over the next wee while or so here. So I have to be honest with you, I've got 28 concurrent viewers at the moment, but I am wilting. So I'm going to call it quits at that, so that I'm not just kind of talking for the sake of talking here. I'm sure folks don't want to listen to that. They want to have decent content to listen to tune into, to something for you to kind of think about. If I've missed anything, and I know I have, I'm going to try and cover it in the upcoming work week here. So, we'll look at La Nina, the possibility of it becoming stronger as the easterly trade winds over the East Pacific increase. We're going to see more upwelling. The La Nina should start to reflect the atmosphere, the SOI, etc., will start to become more La Nina-esque as we move through the next few months here. So all the more reason to stick around to the channel here, and we'll keep a close eye on this. But yeah, in tomorrow's European Outlook, we'll see how warm the upcoming week is going to be. Like, share, and subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. I do greatly appreciate that. Thanks to Vladimir. We've got B Mac, Ben Ente. Good afternoon or evening to you. We've got Frog Legs Matthew. We've got Richard Trott, Jack Lowe. Did I say Mark Kinnish already? Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in this evening here. And it probably will be 7:30 next weekend as well with another live stream. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And I'll see you with the European Outlook tomorrow afternoon as always. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.